In 2020, Al Pacino's heart stopped beating. Paramedics brought him back, but something inside him changed forever. Now, at 84, the man who gave us The Godfather lives a life no one saw coming. Broke after losing $50 million, doing movies he hates just to survive, and becoming a father at 83, with a girlfriend young enough to be his granddaughter. From DNA test drama to his dark beliefs about death, here's why Hollywood's greatest actor is now its loneliest. The making of a legend. Alfredo James Pacino was born on April 25, 1940, in East Harlem, New York City. His parents, Rosa Girardi and Salvatore Pacino, were Sicilian immigrants chasing the American dream, but their marriage didn't last. When Al was just 2, his father left for California, leaving his mother to raise him alone in the South Bronx with the help of his grandparents. Money was tight, and his father's absence left a void that never truly healed. But one thing gave him an escape: movies. His mother loved cinema and often took him to theaters, unknowingly planting the seed of a passion that would define his life. A wild childhood and troubled teenage years. Growing up in the Bronx in the 40s and 50s was tough, and young Pacino had a rebellious streak. By 9, he was smoking and drinking. By 13, he was experimenting with marijuana. School never interested him, and he was constantly in trouble. Fights, skipping class, breaking rules. Expelled from multiple schools, he finally got into the High School of Performing Arts. It seemed like the right place for him, but he didn't last long. At 17, after a heated fight with his mother about his future, Pacino dropped out. With no diploma and no stable job, he drifted. His friends were just like him, lost, aimless, and reckless. Some turned to drugs. 3 of his closest friends, Cliffy, Bruce, and Pi, overdosed. Pacino could have been next, but one thing saved him: acting. Tragedy and turning point. In 1962, everything changed. At just 22, Pacino lost his mother to depression and illness. A year later, his grandfather, his only father figure, passed away. In less than a year, the 2 most important people in his life were gone. He later called this the lowest point of his life, writing in his memoir, Sonny Boy, "If I am lucky enough, perhaps I'll reunite with my mother there. All I want is the chance to walk up to her and simply say, 'Hey Ma, see what happened to me.'" With nothing left to lose, he threw himself into acting. He worked odd jobs: janitor, busboy, messenger, just to pay for acting classes at HB Studio. He was so broke, he often slept on friends' couches, in theaters, and sometimes on the streets. Breakthrough and the man who changed his life. Pacino's luck changed in 1968, when he starred in The Indian Wants the Bronx, an off-Broadway play that showcased his raw talent. His performance as Murph, a violent but deeply human troublemaker, earned him the Obie Award for Best Actor. More importantly, it caught the eye of Martin Bregman, a talent manager who saw something special in him. Bregman became Pacino's mentor, guiding him toward roles that would make him a legend: The Godfather, Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon. Without Bregman, Pacino admitted, his career might never have taken off the way it did. The role that changed everything. In 1969, Pacino made his Broadway debut in Does a Tiger Wear a Necktie?, a play about addiction and redemption. His portrayal of Bickham, a troubled young addict, was so powerful that even though the play ran for just 39 performances, it changed his career forever. Critics hailed him as a rising star, and at just 29, he won the Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in a Play. This moment changed everything. His years of struggle, his method acting training under Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio, it all led to this. The industry had finally taken notice. And then came The Godfather. Michael Corleone wasn't just a challenging role, it was a battle. Today, Al Pacino's performance in The Godfather is legendary, but in 1972, casting him nearly derailed the entire production. Paramount Pictures wanted a bankable star: Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty, Robert Redford, or Ryan O'Neal. Pacino, at the time, was a nobody in Hollywood, with just 1 film credit and a strong theater background. The studio didn't see him as a leading man. He was too short, too unknown, too unconventional. But Francis Ford Coppola saw something no one else did. He believed Pacino had the depth to capture Michael Corleone's transformation from innocent war hero to ruthless mafia boss. The studio fought him on it. At one point, they even tested James Caan for Michael and gave Coppola an ultimatum. Pacino could stay, but only if Caan played Sonny. Even after filming began, Paramount still wasn't convinced. They watched the early footage and wanted Pacino gone. Knowing he had to prove his worth fast, Coppola filmed the restaurant assassination scene earlier than planned. When the studio saw it, everything changed. Pacino wasn't just good, he was mesmerizing. That chilling stare, the controlled intensity, he was Michael Corleone. His performance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, though many felt he belonged in the Best Actor category. In protest, Pacino boycotted the ceremony. But even without the win, The Godfather made him a star. The film grossed over $250 million against a $6 million budget, won Best Picture, and cemented Pacino as one of Hollywood's greatest. Behind the scenes, the pressure was brutal. The constant threat of being fired weighed on him. At one point, he suffered a severe ankle injury while filming a getaway scene. The pain was excruciating, but instead of panic, his first thought was relief. Maybe now he'd be replaced, and the stress would finally end. Coppola, knowing Pacino was struggling, did everything he could to help. He adjusted the filming schedule and leaned on Diane Keaton, Pacino's co-star, to lighten the mood. She became his emotional support on set, offering moments of laughter between intense scenes. Pacino later admitted that without Coppola's belief in him, he might not have made it through. Becoming a Hollywood powerhouse, Serpico and Scarface. In 1973, Pacino took on another transformative role, Frank Serpico, the real-life NYPD officer who exposed corruption within the force. To prepare, Pacino spent time with Serpico, studying his speech, his movements, and his deep sense of isolation. The production had a rocky start. Originally, John G. Avildsen was set to direct, but he was replaced by Sidney Lumet just before filming. The shoot was grueling, set on the sweltering streets of New York, with Lumet's fast-paced directing style adding to the intensity. The effort paid off. Serpico earned Pacino another Academy Award nomination and a Golden Globe win. On a small budget, the film made nearly $30 million and became a landmark in the crime genre. Pacino's portrayal of a man standing alone against a corrupt system remains one of his most powerful performances. A decade later, Pacino took on what would become one of his most iconic roles, Tony Montana in Scarface, 1983. Directed by Brian De Palma and written by Oliver Stone, the film reimagined the 1932 gangster classic for the excess and violence of the 80s. Tony Montana was ruthless, ambitious, and relentless. From the moment he stepped off the boat in Miami, he was determined to take everything he wanted. Pacino crafted every detail: the accent, the mannerisms, even the way Tony held a gun. During filming, he suffered a serious burn after grabbing the barrel of a hot gun, delaying production. But the pain only fueled his dedication to making the character feel real. Upon release, Scarface was a lightning rod for controversy. Critics slammed its extreme violence and profanity, while the Cuban community in Miami protested its depiction of immigrants, forcing parts of the film to be shot in Los Angeles instead. Despite the backlash, Scarface found its audience. It grossed $66 million worldwide and became a cult phenomenon. Tony Montana's rise and fall became the ultimate cautionary tale of greed and power. Lines like, "Say hello to my little friend," became legendary, and the film's influence spread into hip-hop, video games, and pop culture. Over time, Scarface was recognized as one of the greatest gangster films ever made, winning the ultimate prize, Scent of a Woman. In 1992, Pacino took on a very different kind of role. Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade, a blind, bitter Army veteran in Scent of a Woman. This time, he finally won the Academy Award for Best Actor. To prepare, Pacino wore opaque contact lenses, that completely blocked his vision. He used a cane off-camera to make his blindness feel authentic. His performance balanced humor and intensity, making Slade one of his most unforgettable characters. The film's most famous moment? The tango scene, where Slade, despite his blindness, leads a young woman in a flawless dance. It was a perfect metaphor for the character, damaged yet full of life. Al Pacino's rise to Hollywood legend wasn't easy. Paramount opposed his casting in The Godfather, 1972, but his performance silenced doubts and launched his career. He earned Oscar nods for Serpico, 1973, and Scarface, 1983, with Tony Montana becoming iconic. After years of snubs, Scent of a Woman, 1992, finally won him an Oscar. He later explored directing and remained a force in film. Despite never marrying, he embraced fatherhood at 83. Still working, Pacino's legacy is one of resilience, risk-taking, and unforgettable performances.